The major scale is one of the most important tonal elements in all of music. It's used for measuring intervals, building chords, charting chord progressions, and playing melodies, riffs, solos, and bass lines. I touch on the major scale in one way or another in almost every lesson that I teach. Here in this course, we're going to focus on major scale patterns on the fretboard, the kind that are used for playing riffs and solos. And I'm going to talk about the construction of the major scale. Now, to begin, let me just give you some examples of how a guitar player would use major scale patterns in their playing. Here's an example in the key of G that's based on the song Friend of the Devil by the Grateful Dead that uses a descending G major scale along with some chord changes. Here's another example, this one in the key of C, based on Wild World by Cat Stevens, and it's got a descending C major scale in it. Here's another example in C. This one's based on La Bamba, as made popular by Richie Valens and also Los Lobos. Major scale patterns are used to play guitar solos, sometimes even on acoustic guitar. Here's an example that's based on the song To Be With You by Mr. Big. I switched over to my electric guitar here. I'll give you another example of a guitar solo, which is based in the same key as the last example, the key of E. And this sounds similar to I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett. Here's another example of how a lead guitar player might use a major scale pattern. Still in the key of V, I'm going to be moving along the first string in this example, and this is based on the song Let the Praises Ring by Lincoln Brewster. The same patterns that are used for the major scale are also used for the minor scale and all of the major scale modes. Now we get into modes in another course, but here's an example of using the minor scale. This is based on the song Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm using A major scale patterns, but I'm centering on the 6th degree F sharp, creating the sound of F sharp minor. Here's another minor scale example. This is in F natural minor, and it's based on the melody and guitar solo you hear in the song Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Those are just a handful of examples of the ways that guitar players use major scales in their playing. So we are going to focus on learning the construction of the major scale and playing patterns on the fretboard, with the end goal being that you would use the scale patterns to add melodies and riffs to your chord changes, or to play lead guitar lines, and also to play familiar songs. The last lesson in this course has a list of familiar songs that all feature some sort of prominent major scale pattern-based riff, melody, guitar solo, and even some bass lines. All in all, this is what this course is going to cover. We're going to take a look at the formula of whole steps and half steps that make up this 7-tone major scale. We're going to see how scale patterns are formed and fingered on the fretboard. We're going to practice the scale patterns using accompaniment. You're going to transpose the scale patterns to all 12 keys. And you're going to explore various ways that scale patterns can be formed, including 3 notes per string patterns. You're going to develop fingering and picking dexterity by using what are called melodic patterns. Sometimes guitar players call those picking sequences. And finally, you're going to get to know familiar songs that feature prominent major scale melodies, riffs, solos, and bass lines. Now, how far you take all this information depends on which type of player you are. If you're primarily a rhythm guitar player and you just want to add some simple melodies or riffs to your chord changes, then just a surface knowledge of major scales is all you need. You can learn the basic construction of the scale and some basic patterns and probably leave it at that. However, if you aspire to be a lead guitar player, then you will want to meticulously complete each lesson and focus on really memorizing and mastering all of the patterns. You also want to follow some of my suggestions that I give you on how you can further your practice in order to develop more proficiency. Regardless of what type of player you are, all guitar players can benefit from learning about the major scale because it's foundational to any type of music theory topic that you will study. So if you desire to learn more about music and get into higher forms of theory, then you absolutely need to understand the construction of the major scale and at least know some of its basic patterns on the fretboard.